Hi, it's Matt here from Go Green Auto. So this video is just to show you the absolute basics to get to grips with the BMW i3. So if you're a new owner of one of these and it's your first electric vehicle, this will just cover the basics so you can get in and drive it without reading the user manual, basically. So let's start with the absolute basics, opening and shutting the car. So the key is like any other key. Top button unlock, the BMW badge is the lock. The next button opens the bonnet because there is a storage compartment under there, and the bottom button you can program to do what you like via the menu in the car. If you've got keyless entry, you'll have a touch sensitive area behind there, behind the handle, so you just keep the key in your pocket and you'll be able to unlock it by pulling the handle. This car doesn't have it, so we need to unlock it and then we're in. So from this point it's wireless, so we don't actually need the key, so you can keep the key in your pocket. But in this car we've got a key holder here. This is an accessory that you can buy online, and you've got somewhere there to put your keys. So to stop and start the car, you use the gear selector stalk up here behind the steering wheel. So to start it, you must put your foot on the brake, and you keep your foot on the brake and then push the stop start button there, and then the car comes to life and all the screens come on, and we're now ready to drive, and you get this ready writing at the top of your dashboard there. You basically drive an EV like an automatic car. So the gear shifter up here is a little bit unusual, but basically you've got drive, park, neutral and reverse. So keeping your foot on the foot brake, you just move the lever at the top up to drive, and at that point you're ready to drive, and when you release the foot brake you're then off. We do have an electric park brake there, and like many modern cars, if you've done everything in sequence and your seatbelt is on, that will release, but in this case my seatbelt is off, so I need to push that down to release the handbrake. And I'll just fully explain this while we're here. If you want to go to reverse, you put it down, keeping your foot on the brake of course, and if you want to go into park, you push the button at the top, and when you want to stop the car, you push the stop button again, and that then turns the car off and it all goes to sleep. Also just add, if you've got the car running and you open the door, then it will put it into park and it will shut itself down as well, so it tries to correct any mistakes you might make. And like with all modern cars, it expects things to be done in a sequence. So if you find you're not able to pull away, it could be because your door's open or your seatbelt's not on or your handbrake's on, so just check all the obvious things. So when driving an electric vehicle, you just drive it like a normal automatic. So obviously your left leg doesn't do anything because there's no clutch, so keep that on the footrest or back up here. Do not try to go for a clutch, otherwise you might mistakenly go for the brake. And then your right leg is going to do the accelerator and the brake just like it would do normally. So when driving an electric vehicle, you've got this thing called regenerative braking or regen braking. It's got nothing to do with the braking system at all. That's just slowing down on the electric motor, similar to engine braking on a normal car. And you want to capitalise on that. So when you touch the accelerator on an EV, you're putting electricity into the motor, that's spinning, turning the wheels, and you're going along. When you lift off the accelerator and you're moving, instantly that electric motor turns into a dynamo or generator and starts making electricity because of your kinetic energy going forward. And that then puts energy back into the battery pack, charges your battery while you drive, and that extends your range. And that's what regenerative braking is. So you want to utilise that. So when you're on the road and coming up to a junction or a corner and you need to slow down, you just lift off the accelerator, you start getting some charge back, and the vehicle slows down on the motor. So you use that instead of braking. And that has the advantage that your brake pads will pretty much last forever if you drive properly. And on these BMW i3s, the regen braking is set very high, very hard, so it does slow down very quickly when you lift off the accelerator. So you never need to use the brakes. If you drive economically and drive properly, then you're not wearing the brakes out. Obviously, if there's something in front of you and you need to do emergency stop, then yes, you slam on the brakes as normal. But if you drive properly, you want to allow the vehicle to slow you down rather than using the brakes, because you're always getting that bit of charge back. On the i3 there are 3 driving modes which you use this switch to adjust it. You've got Comfort, Eco Pro and Eco Pro Plus. So as standard it is in Comfort, and if I push the switch you can see the 3 modes up there, and the main screen will also tell you. So Comfort is sort of normal mode, but I think they should have actually called it Sport mode, to be honest. So when you drop it down one, and we're now in Eco Pro Plus, that is eco driving. So what that does is it reduces the power to the electric motor a little bit, so you accelerate a little bit more gently. To be honest, it's still fast, and for most people Eco would be the Eco Pro would be the normal driving mode, I would suggest, certainly when you're getting used to the vehicle. And in that mode it will also limit the power to the heating system a little bit, and it also limits your top speed, and we can see up here it says lim 70, that's limit 70 miles an hour, and you can change that speed in the settings to set what speed you want that to be limited to. And then you have another mode, drop it down one more, with an Eco Pro Plus, and that's for maximum efficiency. We can see there our speed is now limited to 56 miles an hour, and it also turns off the heating system completely. I think it also turns off the electric seats as well, the heated seats. That mode you're generally not going to use very often, but it's a useful mode if you want to drive the most efficiently you can and want to get to a charger if you're running very low on power. Not quite so relevant on a range extender model one of these as this one is, because the petrol generator is going to switch on when you're low anyway. But if you want to just eke out that electricity to stop the generator at the back coming on, then that's when you would use the Eco Pro Plus mode. The next thing is the power meter in the middle, this gauge, and it's quite important particularly when you're new to driving an EV, and it shows you your power usage. So we have this graph, and the little white dot shows your current energy consumption, and when it swings around to this side it's showing you you're using electricity, and you want to drive with it as low as you can, and obviously if you stick your foot down it will swing all the way to the top. But when you get some speed up you want to lift off the accelerator just a little bit and see if you can drop this down a little bit while still maintaining your speed for efficient driving. And when the white dot swings on this side, that's showing the regenerative braking is putting charge back in the battery, and again that's what you want to capitalize on when you're slowing down. One other thing which is a bit different if you haven't driven a BMW before is the indicator stalk. It doesn't click down and click. It's got very limited movement on it, but you soon get used to it. So if I clicked it up, we've obviously got the indicators on, but one little push, very gentle push, will turn them off. Of course they automatically turn off when the steering turns, but they're a little bit different to normal cars. There's very little movement in the stalk, and it's quite light movements. So a little light touch will do 3 flashes, but a harder right touch and actually click it will then stay on. But when you're first driving a BMW for the first time with this sort of stalk, you often find you end up going from one side to the other trying to turn them off if you're not used to it. And the wiper stalk actually has the similar sort of feel to it. Again, it's a bit different to normal cars, but we've got the indicator there showing you what it's going to do. So one click down will just do one swipe, one click up and another click up puts it into the normal 1 and 2 modes. They've also obviously got automatic as well, and then to do the rear wiper it's twisting this end stalk. So next I'll briefly talk about the heating system. So it's got climate control, so basically to turn the heating on you just press auto. We're in Eco Pro Plus, I can see there, so let's just turn that on to Eco Pro. As you can see we've got Eco Pro and Eco Pro Plus there on the heating system, because when it's in one of those 2 modes it does reduce the power of the heating system, but when you're in normal comfort mode you don't get anything because you have full heating use then. So let's just push auto, and that turns the heating on, and then you've got your desired temperature there. And if you want to change your temperature, you just change it there. And leaving it on auto, the car will decide where to send the air, and it will maintain that temperature. If you do want to adjust the fan manually, you can do it with this switch here. And to turn the heating off, you've got to press it off there with the fan switch. There isn't another off button as such. You just turn this all the way down to the minimum, and then it will turn off. I'm not going to go into the iDrive system because it is absolutely vast, but what I will just give you the basics is to use the screen up there, you use these buttons down here, and you've got shortcuts to all the functions. So you've got media, radio, menu, telephone and navigation. And then you've got a back button, an option button, and you use this dial to navigate. So if I just turn this, we're turning the menu, our selector there up on the screen. And then we've got turn, we've also got select by pushing, and then we can actually move the knob left and right and up and down for left, right, up and down navigation up on that screen. So it's all done via that, and when you're used to it, you don't look at this at all, and you're just watching what you're doing with the cursor up on the screen. Everything is controlled through the iDrive system, including the user manual. So if you want to get to the user manual, just press menu, go to vehicle information, and then you've got owner's manual there, and you can search via pictures as well. So yeah, everything is in this system. So you can go to settings and set the car up. We can go to radio. We can go to media. That's if you've got your phone connected, telephone, and navigation. On the navigation, I would just say you use these options on the side. So you would push left to go across, and then you can scroll down and select which one you want to use. The navigation does seem a little bit clunky when you first time using it, when you've not used an iDrive system before, but you very soon get used to it, and it's actually very nice. Finally, these buttons along the top, you can actually do anything with them. They're up to you to program whatever function you want behind them. So most people will just set radio station to them. They're basically shortcut keys, but you can select any function within the iDrive system to be assigned to a key. So as example, button 8 I've assigned to the tyre pressures. So if I quickly want to see the tyre pressures while I'm driving, I don't have to go through the menus on the iDrive. I can go straight to button 8 and see it, and it saves quite a lot of steps. I'm not sure whether we've got any buttons programmed. So button 1 is straight to our station list, our favourite stations. So you can program those to what you want to do with them. And basically when you're in somewhere in the iDrive, you can push and hold a button and assign that option or whatever you've got on the screen to that button. Let's quickly say, because this has got the barn style doors, you have to remember that your seat belts for the front passengers are built into the door for the back passengers. So if someone in the back needs to get out, you need to take your seat belt off. You also need to open your door a little bit to allow the back door to open. People are getting in the back, you don't need to move your seats, but if you want a bit more space, you do have a little sort of hidden button there which will move either seat, driver and passenger, forward to allow them to get in. You do not need to slide it on the rails and ruin your driving position. So to charge it, your charge flap is at the back here. You just push that and the door will open. And then this is your AC charging, and this is your DC charging. So the AC charging is what you would use at home or at work, or a slow public charger that you might find, let's say, in a car park or a supermarket. Your DC charging is what you would use when you're in the middle of a journey. For example, in a motorway services or a petrol forecourt. So that is your quick 30-minute rapid charge, and this is your slower destination or parking charging. With all EVs, your charge cable is locked to the car while it's charging. So if you come to get your cable out and you can't get it out, then it's just a case of flipping the unlock button on the key, and then you'll hear a pin inside here that gets released, and you can then move the pull the cable out. If you have a range extender i3, then your petrol filler cap is on the front wing behind this flap. To release that, you have a button down here which you need to push and hold for a few seconds, and then up on the screen it will tell you the status of the filling cap, and the system's basically pressurized, so you just have to wait until that says ready to refuel, and you can then release this like that. Sometimes it's a little bit sticky because actually these don't get used very often, and as you can see there's lots of cobwebs in here, but at this point you can then just twist and turn that and fill it with fuel. This takes petrol and it's a very small tank. I can't remember the exact size, I'll put it up on the screen, but it only takes about £10 worth of fuel. You shut the flap, you will hear that click, and now that is now locked. Oh, and while we're talking about the petrol generator, because with normal use that doesn't get used very often, if it's been some time before that's kicked in and you haven't actually used the petrol generator, it will automatically do a cycle, or request a cycle up on the screen. You might see a yellow exclamation mark, and the first time you'll see it you'll think there was an error, but basically that's just saying that it wants to run a maintenance cycle on the generator, and it will do that while you're driving. It will do it by itself, and it basically switches on the petrol generator and runs for about 3 minutes, and it just does that to keep the oil running nicely around the engine and lubricate all the parts. It's just because it's been sat for a very long time. But if you're using it frequently, then you'll never see that maintenance cycle. But the car decides that by itself and will sort it out by itself. However, the generator can only run if the battery is below 75% state of charge, and that is because while it's running, it's charging the battery, so it can't run when the battery is full because there's nowhere for the electricity to go. So if you see the exclamation mark up on the screen and it says it needs to run a cycle, then it won't do that until the battery is below 75% state of charge. So it will just stay on the screen until it can actually do it. But if you see it, it's worth just running the battery down a bit low just to allow it to run that maintenance cycle. So in normal operation, you're generally just driving on the battery pack and the range extender won't run. But when that battery gets flat, the range extender kicks in by itself, so it's impossible to run out of electricity in these. And on the 60 amp hour like this, it comes in at 7 or 8% state of charge. On the 94 amp hour it comes in at about 5 or 6% state of charge. So basically, while you're driving, if the battery gets to that critical level and starts getting low, the petrol generator will just switch on and charge the battery while you drive. It's not driving the wheels, it's just the generator and charging the battery. So if you're using a lot of energy, let's say for example you were bombing along at 70-80 miles an hour and you had the heating on full and consuming a lot of energy, the generator might not actually keep up with you, so you'll find your state of charge will keep dropping. But if you're doing 50-60 miles an hour and a bit of regen occasionally, the generator will keep up fine, and if you're driving slower, then actually the generator will start then charging the battery and will generate more electricity than you're using. And also, when you come to a stop at a junction or roundabout, for example, the generator does turn off. So when it's running, you do find that it will keep cutting in and out by itself as it deems fit to do so. Just a quick one to open the glove box. The switch is there. It's unmarked, but that's the switch there to open the box. Finally, we'll just open the bonnet there. So you push and hold that button there for a second or two, and then put your hands up under there, and on this left side of this left kidney grill here, there is a little lever which you push up there. You're pushing that up, and then this is your front storage compartment. These aren't weatherproof, so anything that's in there will get slightly damp, and this will collect leaves and rubbish, but it's a handy place for your charge cables because obviously they're waterproof. And in this case we've got our puncture repair kit there, but it's great if you want to put some dirty shoes in there or something, boots. but generally you keep your charge cables in there. But I would just say it's probably worth keeping your AC charging cable in the boot at the back, because that's just a bit easier to access than this one. In this case we've got the granny cable there because that isn't used very often. To open the back boot, the button is up inside the handle at the top there. I would just say this is glass, so do be careful if that's going to hit something or on the garage roof, or if you're reversing into something. You don't want to break that, because that does get rather expensive. And then obviously there we have our charge cable, so type 2 to type 2. This is what you would use to plug into a public slow charging post or your home wall charger. I think I've pretty much covered everything, well, the basics anyway. There's obviously a lot to it when you go into the iDrive system, but do have a look at your quick start guide if you've got one, or the user manual that's on the iDrive. But there's plenty of other videos on YouTube as well if you want any more help.